What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike Sasser, boudoir photographer in Los Angeles, California, and today we are restarting the Photographer Spotlight series. And if you don't know what that is, it's when I get a chance to speak with photographers who are crushing it in their industry, and they're going to speak to you and give a little bit of insight into their business. Think of it as a video podcast. Today's very special guest is Erik Umphery, who's a celebrity photographer who shot everybody like, I'm just going to read off a few of these names: Jamie Foxx, Beyonce, Kevin Hart, Snoop Dogg, Jesse Williams. I mean, it's crazy. Not only that, but he shot for a ton of incredible brands: Hulu, Nike, Netflix, ESPN, Coke, Gillette, Visa, and he is nice enough to share some of his journey and how he got through some of his biggest hurdles. So without further ado, let's get into another Photographer Spotlight. We are here with Erik. What's happening today, man?
Man, I'm just excited to be here and part of this.
I'm excited we're able to do this. We met years ago. I bought a lens from you, right? Did you buy a lens?
I was trying to remember
I don't even remember
what it was.
But yeah, I checked out a studio and just like amazing work up on the walls, and I was like, we got to do something sometime. So I want to show you guys a little bit of his work before we get into sharing just a ton of knowledge. Yeah, so I would love to just hear a little bit of your history, like a 5-minute, how'd you get started, turning point, how'd you find yourself where you are now?
Yeah, so it's interesting, like, my career isn't like a typical artist career. My mom got me into photography when I was like super young. And I was learning how to develop film in the darkroom. I might have been 6 years old. I've got like a picture when I'm like 5 with a camera around my neck, and we're in like Canada. And I did that up until I was like 11, and then my mom passed, and I stopped shooting, like, I don't want to say professionally, but with like an SLR. In college, I kind of wanted to get back into photography. I signed up for the class. We had a class at my college, but it was a long walk from campus. Like, it was off campus. You had to buy a camera. I couldn't afford a camera back then, so I was like, I dropped the class, switched, went into finance, studied finance in college. Got a job in corporate working for Stanley Tools, was a product manager. So I was like designing toolboxes and getting them to market from design all the way to retail. I left there and went to Home Depot, and I worked in this division called Crown Bolt, where I was in charge of like nuts, bolts, and bent metal. And our main job was like our customer was Home Depot was our customer. And we were just to make Home Depot happy. So we would get like the merchants come over, work on the business, but then we entertained them a lot. Like, it was all about client service there. And for me, that like was great training ground for when I transitioned. I was working these insane hours, like 17, 18-hour days. I was just unhappy. And so a friend posted on Facebook who wanted to take photography classes. And I saw it. I was like, sign me up. And so one of my best friends was like, oh, I know this guy that's like a photographer. He just quit his job. You should meet him. And me and this dude have been friends ever since. But in that exchange, like, I told him I was into photography. He was like, if you're serious about it, he was like, you need to be shooting every weekend. Like you need to be shooting Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every time you're off. And so that's what I did. So I was like, all right, cool. I want to be a photographer. He told me he's a photographer full time. I need to shoot Friday, Saturday, Sunday when I'm not working. And he was like, shoot all your friends. He was like, shoot everybody you know. And then after you shoot everybody you know, put out ads on Craigslist and shoot people for free. So I literally listened to everything he said and started doing that. And so through that, I started meeting more photographers. And I realized like people had careers out of this, which I didn't know at all. Like, I didn't know careers existed. And I eventually was like, all right, I'm going to save enough money. I'm going to quit, and I'm going to try this photography thing full time. And so that was almost 9 years ago. I faced so much rejection on a constant basis. If I allowed it to get to me, I would never start anything at all. I did another personal project where I shot a bunch of comedic influencers. And the goal was like, every Wednesday for a month, I wanted them to come to my studio, and I was going to shoot them for like 30 minutes each. And I wanted to get like the biggest influence. So I reached out to 100 of them. Okay. And I shot one years ago. I reached out to 100 of them, but the one I shot was like the biggest of them all. I reached out to 100 of them. Like the first week, it was supposed to be 6 that showed up. One person showed up, and I was like, and I had like set it up. Had makeup artists, had props, had catering. One person shows up. Everyone else cancels. Out of the 6, one shows. I shoot her. It goes dope. She's like, "Oh, this was amazing. I'm gonna tell all my friends because they all like collaborate together." The next week, 8 showed up.
Oh my God.
Shout out all of them. The week after it, so now they're like hitting me up. The people that didn't show up the first 2 weeks, now I'm getting hit up by a bunch of them. And so I end up shooting like 32 of them. And then when I stopped, like I was still getting hit up by them. And I've done projects with several other influencers from that. But I could have been in my feelings after the first week, like, oh, this sucks. I spent all this money. I did all this and it didn't even happen. Like, I'm wasting my time.
I'm not going to do it next week.
I'm not going to do it.
Cancel it.
Exactly. I'm going to cancel it. But every week, after I did it the first week, I reached out to 90 more.
So hold on. So the first week you reached out to 100.
100 people.
And then
one person showed up.
8 people said they were coming.
6 were coming, and one showed up.
That's just awesome. I think that's so clearly like the work that it actually takes to be successful in photography, especially when you're just getting started, is that because you're not well known, because you don't have a huge portfolio, because you're not that connected in that industry, it takes a lot more tries.
Yeah.
To get you, it takes a lot more failures to reach your success. Whatever the number of failures are that lead to the successes, is like a lot. So
a whole lot. But this is what I'll say. Like the craziest thing is like this is probably 3 years ago. At that time, I had shot like some of the biggest entertainers in the world, but I wanted to shoot these influencers. So when I would reach out to them, I would add in there like images that I had shot. Like I shot Beyonce, I had shot Kelly Rowland, I had shot who else? 50 Cent. Like all those images would be in the email I sent them. I'm like, I'm trying to create like some dope with you guys, yada yada yada. So I'm like, I had a little bit of a body of work that gave me some credibility. That I wasn't just like this new photographer off the street. And I thought like, well, that should be enough to get some influence to come shoot with me. But when one showed up, I was like, this sucks. Like, did I just waste all my time, all my money, all my resources? And I got one person. Like, what am I going to do with this? But then I was like, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep going.
I want to hear about, so we talked a little bit. So in Boudoir, it's like a ton of building trust with clients. It's a ton of, during the photo shoot, you got to get them comfortable, and it's a pretty vulnerable situation. And but that said, everybody wants to be. They've hired you to shoot the shoot. It's pretty rare that somebody says, "I don't really want to do this boudoir shoot. I'm really doing it for my husband. I'd rather do anything else, but I kind of have to be here." That almost never happens. But you still have to go through that like rapport building. So now in your situation, like we have all kinds of time. I've got hair and makeup. I've got phone calls beforehand. I've got all kinds of, and then we've got an hour and a half to shoot. In your case, sometimes you got like 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Sometimes you got an hour. What do you do with these people who either they don't want to be there or they're not comfortable in front of the camera? Like, how do you build rapport so quickly?
So I've been in every situation that you can imagine. And like, yes, we have hair and makeup and glam and all that, but typically when the talent is in those areas, I'm with the client. So for instance, if I'm shooting an actor, the client is a television network that hired me, right? Or the advertising agency that reps the television network. And I'm dealing with them. We're talking about the creative and everything. Then the talent shows up, and they're like, though they may be on the show and this shoot is to promote their show, it's just an extra day in their contract that they got to be working that they'd rather not be working because they're not filming typically. They probably just came off of a 12-hour day of filming the day before, and then they got to spend 12 hours with me and then go back to filming the next day. They're like, I don't want to be here. Get me out of here as fast as possible. This should be a day off for me. And so my job is I got to execute these photos for the client and make these people look amazing, get them in character. So I try to do a little bit of research on who I'm shooting. And so I can figure out, all right, what do we have in common? What do we like together? Like I'm either looking at their Instagram, I'll look up like past projects that they worked on. And if I find a project that like I was totally attached to growing up, like I'm gonna talk to them about that project. Or if I see something on their Instagram that we have in common, like if they had just, one time someone had just got back from Costa Rica and they stayed at the same resort that me and my wife went to. And I like literally went in talking to them about that. And it got them like, it drops their guard. They're like, oh, he's kind of cool. Like, I can talk to this person and we can relate. So I figure, and like a lot of times, like the client will be anxious about, they'll be prepping like, this talent may be very difficult. This talent may be this talent may be that. And I'm just sitting there, I'm usually all smiles, good energy. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'm sure we'll be fine. And 98% of the time, the talent, I'm able to get them comfortable and happy to be there at least for the time I get and get them to do everything that we need. And it's like a smooth thing. Like,
do you address head on, like, I'm sure you don't want to be here?
No, I never bring that up. Like, I always keep it in like a positive light. Like, okay. It's always like, man, really nice to meet you. I'm super excited to be doing this. Then I try to talk about something that our connection is, whether it's where they're from, something common. Like, for some reason, I've shot a lot of people from the DMV, and that's where I'm from. So we'll talk about like back home and talking about crab cakes, all types of stuff. And they're just like, oh, this is a cool person. And like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Okay, so you're trying to find commonalities. Now, the people you're photographing, they're like known. They've got their Instagrams are public. They've got projects that they've worked on. They've been in shows. They're however they did in the season. But for boudoir, like, I've found that I need to figure out a way to ask them all of these things without being like too intrusive. So what I've done is I've come up with a questionnaire that I can send people. So it says things like, what's your guilty pleasure? When do you feel most beautiful? What kind of music do you like to listen to? And then before they walk in the door, I'm scrolling through, what did this person say? Like, let me go through that email and try to figure out, what we can talk about. They're getting married. Oh, great. Like, why did you choose February for your wedding? Or,
exactly.
25-year anniversary. That's crazy. Like, and then we can just jump into it. So I don't need to, it's a way to reduce the work, but also like have those commonalities to kind of chat about. Like, give me a chance to find out more about them without, without Facebook stalking them, I suppose.
Yeah. But for me, like, I don't have to spend. It's not like I'm spending a ton of time Facebook stalking them. The client, I spend a ton of time stalking. But like the talent, I just need like 2 or 3 things that we got in common, and I've been very fortunate that I usually have something in common. Like, I feel like most people, you got something in common with. So I find that thing I have in common, and then I just go from there. And it makes, once you build a small connection, it makes building those other connections a lot easier.
What's an example of like another or a bigger connection after you're like, cool, we went to the same resort, or
then we get to talking about family. And so if they have a family. So if we went to the same resort, they went with their wife or whatever. So now we're talking about like, oh, the family. And then we talk about the kids. And then now it's like, oh, school. And it's like, oh, you live here. And they may live in California. They may live in Atlanta. Like, oh, I used to live there. And then then it becomes like, we like good old friends. We might go out drinking after this. So
I think that's brilliant. I think, so what I hear, when I first started shooting boudoir, it was like, well, I'm a guy and they're a woman. Like, what do we have? And like, how can I relate to them? How can I bring certain things in? And that's right. Even if you haven't lived somewhere, you've traveled there. You have a friend who's traveled there. And then you can talk about your surrounding circles. For me, it was a lot. Friends of mine who had felt whatever this person has talked about. I have a girlfriend really close to me who she's been through whatever, and we can kind of talk about that. Like, just a little bit of rapport. Like, you can relate it, whatever it is, you can relate to in some ways.
I don't know who I'm going to be shooting. I don't know when I'm going to be shooting, and I get a limited amount of time. I'll have anywhere from a minute to like 5 minutes max with a person. And so in that, I have to find a connection. And I'm shooting everyone from writers to directors to actors to aspiring actors. And so I got to find a connection with these people that some I know who they are, some I don't. And I'm like, I got to make them feel comfortable because I want to take good pictures of them. But it can be something as simple as like the sneakers that they got on, something that they're wearing, or like Sundays, everybody's bundled up in like coats.
Bundles.
And we're up on the mountains, and I'm like, do you ski? Do you snowboard? Like, finding something that they can say yes, even if they don't ski or snowboard, they're like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. Have you done it? And now we're talking about that. And so I just need them to drop their guard a little bit. I just need you to drop it a little bit. And then once you drop it a little bit, typically, if I'm like willing to be vulnerable with them, the person is willing to be vulnerable with me. And then I can get good images.
If you want to see the full 50-minute interview with Erik, head over to my Patreon account. It is completely free. You don't even need to sign up. I am doing monthly photo critiques there, so if you'd like to get some advice on your images, check to see when the next critique is on the Patreon page, and I'll see you guys in the next video.